Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Donnie and Dolly, a presentation of Able Auctions and King of Floors. Meanwhile, it is Tuesday. And all of our guests today, including Craig Button, who's standing by, sponsored by Skipper Auto, supporting Canadian fishing families through our revolutionary seafood buying experience. Check them out online at skipperauto.com as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. How are you, sir?
I am good, Donnie. How are you doing? Hot enough for you?
It is. It is. What's it like where you are right now?
Same. It's like 37, 38, and feels like over 40. So, and the one thing is it's summer, and it's not something that we're used to, but at the same time, you know what? I'll take this over minus 40.
See, we had this conversation yesterday, and I'm more of a minus 40 guy than I am a plus 40 guy. But hey, are you in Calgary, Toronto right now, Craig? Sorry.
I'm in Calgary.
But
okay. But Donnie, I can go out and do things at plus 40. I can jump in a lake. I can sit by the pool or whatever, whatever you want to do. I can go out in the morning. When it's minus 40, and I love the outdoors, I can't go out. It's too cold.
Yes, but you can sleep, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
There's that.
Donnie, very, very strong point.
Craig, before we get into last night's game, news coming down this morning, looks like the Oilers and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's from around these parts, are going to agree on a deal, 8 years, $41 million. Does that make sense to you?
Listen, I thought that if Ryan Nugent-Hopkins wanted to get more money, he was going to have to go to a team that wasn't very good. And we've seen lots of examples of players, who warrant. It's not about not warranting, their ask of certain dollars, but players have to make a choice about where they want to be. And Ryan took the turn, and, for the Edmonton Oilers, $5.125 million over that term. I think for the Edmonton Oilers, they can look at this over the next 4 years and go, hey, this is pretty good at $5.125 million. You hope the revenues go up and that the salary cap can go up so that 5 point. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at 32, 33 is not going to be anywhere close to where he is now or next year or the year after. So, I think term is really important. But I think for Ryan, he found term and security. And for the Edmonton Oilers, they found the dollar value that works for them. But I think for Nugent, I wouldn't have gone 8 years. I just wouldn't. I think it's but I like the dollar amount for the Edmonton Oilers, but I don't like the term. But again, 8 years, 5 years down the road is a long time, and I think for 4 years it'll work out well for Ryan and for the Edmonton Oilers.
As for the game last night, Craig, game one of the Stanley Cup Final, Lightning beat the Habs 5-1. Any reason to think the Habs can't bounce back?
No, there's not. I think that would be erroneous to take that position because the Montreal Canadiens have shown throughout these playoffs that faced with different challenges, right from the first round, that they've been able to find solutions and they've been able to find a strength in their play where they could get on the right side and win, not only series, but you've got to win games to do that. So I think there's three things, Donnie, for me, that the Montreal Canadiens are faced with in this series that's going to be unique for them that they haven't faced in previous series. Number one, Point and Kucherov are dynamic, dominant players. And you saw last night what John Cooper did. He didn't pull the Sheldon Keefe where he told Austin Matthews, you know what, I don't need to shelter you. I don't need to protect you. Go out there and play against Philip Deneau. Philip Deneau owned him. And Philip Deneau owned Blake Wheeler, and he owned Mark Stone. A coach's job isn't to force his players to eat spinach and act like Popeye. It's about saying, hey, what gives me and my team the best chance to take advantage of another team's weaknesses? John Cooper, gave a real coaching lesson not only to Sheldon Keefe but to others. And so, we're on the road playing against Kucherov and Point. That's a real challenge. Number two. Canadians' four defensemen, they're going to have a real challenge defending against this Tampa Bay team, because Tampa Bay goes to the net. They stop at the net. They engage at the net. They hunt pucks at the net. When you're playing outside the dots, it becomes a lot easier to conserve energy, and it becomes a lot easier to defend. Montreal is going to have a real challenge in that regard. And then number 3, they're going to have to find a way to get scoring out of Danault's line if he's not matched up with Point, or out of the Kotkaniemi line. Because if they don't get scoring out of one of those 2 lines, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are so deep in their roster, they're gonna be really up against it. Because I don't like their chances of being able to keep Tampa Bay to less than 2 goals.
Craig, Gary Bettman's State of the Union yesterday sure doesn't sound like he wants to go to the Olympics next year. What are your thoughts, Craig, on sending NHL players to the Olympics? Are you pro or con?
Well, I'm pro. I am pro, Rick. And let me just say this about Gary and the league. The league and the NHL Players Association have agreed that they want Olympic participation. But they're not going to do it on the IOC's terms, and nor should they. And I was at the 2018 Olympics, and it's great where people can go and participate in the Olympics. When you have 5 cycles of best on best, and then you come back with the 2018 Olympics that you saw, it's not best on best. It's like, do you want to go to Wimbledon and not see the best players? You want to see the second-tier players? No, you don't. And it's the same thing with the Olympics. So despite the fact that the NHL and the NHLPA have agreed to go to the Olympics, the IOC needs to step up. And in a cycle, the last 16 months or so, it'll be over just about 2 years, when like revenues. And so Gary's position to me is, hey, listen, we want to go. We know the players want to go, and we're going. But we're not just going to go. We're not just going to say, look at us. We're revenues and a chance to, have a stake in the Olympics is significant for the NHL and for the players. And I think that that's really important to emphasize. So really the way I look at it is, I think, and I'm not going to say it, I think the IOC called the NHL's bluff in 2018, and the IOC is the one that hurt. And if they want to go down the same path again, they're going to be hurting again.
Hey, Craig, I specifically remember asking you about Brogan Rafferty when he was lighting it up in the American Hockey League. He had he made the All-Star game and everything was good. He's a UFA right now, Craig, and it doesn't, from what I'm hearing today, it doesn't sound like he wants to re-sign in Vancouver. Talk about that. He never got an opportunity. He only played 1 game in Vancouver. It's such a fine line, Craig, to dominate the American League but not get that chance at the NHL level.
And Rick, I think you right there is where it comes. So you see a player, and he clearly dominated. He was a top player in the American Hockey League, and I think the question has to be to the Vancouver Canucks: why were you reluctant to give him an opportunity? Why? Why were you reluctant to give him an opportunity? And I don't know what Brogan is thinking about, but I have to believe that he's saying, wait a second here. I came in, I signed, and make no mistake, when he was a college free agent, they promised opportunity. Yes. When he goes and he works and he plays well and then he doesn't get it, why would he want to come back? Yeah. Why would he want to come back? So to me, that's a question for the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm going to go back to what the great Sam Pollock used to say about players in your own organization. He said, you bring players in, you have, if they've shown that they can meet the challenges of the next level, you have to give them opportunity. And you have to test them at that level before you can be definitive about what they are or what they aren't. The Vancouver Canucks failed in this regard.
Craig, before we let you go, would you consider, and this is going around Vancouver these days, would you consider Matthew Barzal fair comparable for Elias Pettersson when it comes to contract negotiations?
Yeah, if I was Lou Lamoriello, I would not Lou Lamoriello. Fair. Yeah. I think Pettersson's a better player than Barzal. Okay. That's where I would be.
Thank you, Craig.
Okay.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Craig.
Rick and I disagree on this.
And that would be on a Craig. Let's emphasize it would be on a 3-year deal, not on a 5 or 6 or 7.
Well, can you elaborate on that, Craig? Why do you feel he's a better player?
I'll tell you why. I think that Matthew Barzal has moments of brilliance, but is not a brilliant player. I think Pettersson is a brilliant player. I think he's able to do way more in the game. If I had to describe it in this way, I would say that Matthew Barzal sees the game in 2D. Elias Pettersson sees it in 3D. Great players need to see it in 3D. That doesn't mean Matt Barzal doesn't have his moments of brilliance. It doesn't, but I never think he'll be a brilliant player.
Craig, this is your last time visiting us, and I just want to say it's been a pleasure, and all the best in the future. Thanks for this, Craig.
Hey, Craig, can we get your thoughts on Jet Wu? No, just kidding.
These guys are going to use that clip now until the end of time.
Craig, that clip is being clipped. We're going to clip it.
Well, I think the thing about me is I'm not just sitting there to try to throw fuel on a fire. That's what I think. And guess what? I think the Islanders see what Matt Barzal is. It's not so much, but I think there's all this talk about how brilliant he is. And yes, he has those moments. But I don't see a brilliant player. I see a player that gets tied into too much of a narrow view of the game. And I think that if he didn't have that, he would be brilliant. I think Pettersson absolutely has that, a quality that Barzal lacks.
Okay, you've made your point, Craig. We get the idea.
Love it. Love it.
Driving it home.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. Thanks, Craig.
Okay, I'm going to sleep well tonight, Don.
So am I.
Good,
so
good.
am I.
Yeah, good luck in 40 degrees. We will talk to you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Craig.